morning, madam.
Good morning.
Pleased to meet you finally after a lot of proposals and postponements. Attempts. Finally, it's good to talk to you once again.
Thank you.
After we met last in Owerri.
Thank you.
For the benefit of our listeners who want to meet you, please, can we get to know you?
My name is Annkio Briggs. I'm from Rivers State, Niger Delta. I'm from the Ijaw ethnic nationality. I grew up in the Niger Delta. I was raised in the creeks of the Niger Delta, so I'm truly a creek girl, as I call myself. I'm a fisherwoman. It's our traditional background. Our people are fishermen, and I have been speaking truth and agitating for justice and equity. I believe very much that without justice and equity and liberty spoken on truth, it will be very difficult to move further than Nigeria is today right now. So I consider myself a rights activist, and I've been doing this as a lifetime commitment for nearly 20 years for the Niger Delta region, and I didn't make that decision lightly. I didn't decide to go into this type of a risky adventure in Nigeria lightly. It is something that I believe needs to be done. Every ethnic group needs to speak for itself, because if you don't, your voice will not be heard. And if your voice is not heard, then whatever your aspirations and your desires and rights are in a country like Nigeria will be lost.
Now, let's take it off from there. You have been agitating for a more resource controlling Niger Delta region. May I simply ask, first, why the agitation?
First of all, that's why truth is very, very vital in the agitation for liberty, justice, and equity. Truth is very critical. Now, why is truth critical? There is an element, the most important element when you are agitating for something is the rights and the ownership of what you are agitating for. Now, do you have a right to agitate for those things? That's the first question. And if you have a right to agitate for those things, from what background, from what reasoning are you agitating for? So ownership is very important. To own the process, to own the right to agitate. And whatever it is that you're agitating for, if it's the right to speak or if it is the right to resources. So there is something fundamentally wrong with a situation of any people, not just Niger Delta people or Igbo people or TV people or Benue people or whatever. There is something very fundamentally not proper when a people wake up one morning and find that they are no longer the owners of what is naturally their own. When they wake up and realize that they are no more the owners, very, very simply, that means it has been, whatever that thing is, it has been taken away from them. And so when people say, like, why the agitation for control, my life, as I am Annkio Briggs, as I'm seated here, who I am, I represent myself. I am in charge of my decisions. Now, I'm created by God. I am in charge from here on of my decisions that I make. Now, if I wake up one morning and I realize that if I want to open this door to go out, there's somebody standing at that door telling me to go back in, my right to make my decision to leave my room has been taken away from me. And so it's the same thing with the issue of resources in the Niger Delta. All over the world, where natural resources are found, where they are found, the people who own that place where these resources are found those resources belong to them. Now, anywhere you have people all over the world agitating for rights, equity, and justice, if you look closely at the beginning, at the foundation, at the roots of it, you will find the issue of natural resources. Land, right to water, right to passage, right to the resources in the ground, whether it's oil or gas or bitumen or uranium, whatever it is. So it's not unique to the Niger Delta people that they wake up one morning and they realize that what is naturally their own is no longer their own. And even if they have endured it or been silent about it for 50 years or 100 years or even 1,000 years, doesn't mean that a generation today or tomorrow cannot rise up and say, no, this has gone on for so long, it is not right, we don't want it to go on anymore. Now, Nigeria is a nation that was put together, not by the people who call themselves Nigerians today, of which you and I are one each, but by people who are not Nigerians, i.e. the colonial empire, the British government, Her Majesty's government, in the person of Lord Lugard. They colonized areas that they carved up in Africa. These are all historical facts. They woke up one morning for the interest of the colonial government, for the interest of the British Empire in Africa. They decided to create a nation, a country, by bringing in people within a space of the map, what represents the map of Nigeria today, and gave it a name and called it Nigeria. You and I happen to be amongst those people. You and I happen to come from a particular region that started off from the Southern Protectorate, that evolved into Nigeria, that evolved into an independent Nigeria, that evolved into a colonial Nigeria, that evolved into an independent Nigeria, from where was carved out the eastern region, and today out of the colonial Nigeria, independent Nigeria, and from the former four regions of Nigeria, north, west, east, and middle belt. We evolved now into 36 states that are also packaged in pockets of political zones, of 6 political zones. When you have 36 states, as we do today, and the formula of generating income for the country is based on sharing of natural resources. In this instance, the sharing of natural resources is coming solely from a particular region, from oil and gas. And you have 2 states in the southeastern region of Nigeria, which is the Igbo region. And from there you have Abia and Imo that is officially producing oil, no matter how small. Yes. They are producing oil. Then you have, from the southwest, you have one state, Ondo, producing oil, no matter how small they're producing oil. Sure. Then you have the South-South, which is Niger Delta, of 6 states that is producing oil. And the Niger Delta region is producing about 95% of the revenue of oil and gas. Whereas Abia, Imo, and Ondo State is producing about 5% of the 100% of oil and gas. I'm not talking about taxes that is coming from Lagos. I'm not talking about any other revenue. I'm talking about oil and gas, which is the main revenue of Nigeria. But when you put it in the form of percentage of 100% of oil and gas revenue coming from 9 states of the 36 states, what you have is 9 states feeding, paying all the bills that the other 27 states are generating in their states. The oil and gas is paying all their bills of salaries, of police, of whatever contributions they make back to the federal is coming from the oil and gas. Now, that we may not have known this, or we knew it and didn't say anything, does not mean that 60 years, 50 years after, that a new set of people will not come up and say, no, this is not right. A nation of 180 going 200 million, we are told that by the year 2030 or so, that Nigeria is going to be the 6th or what largest by population, largest nation in the world.
4th actually.
4th in the world.
After China, India, and the United States.
And if you now say the projection is that in another 10 or 20 years, between 10 and 20 years, the revenue of oil and gas is going to be depleted. And if you also look at the price we pay in terms of environmental devastation for Nigeria to be taking the oil and gas from these 9 states and devastating those regions, of which the Niger Delta states bear the worst. We are known to be the worst devastated part of the world because of oil and gas. You begin to wonder how anybody can question our right to agitate for good environment, to agitate for us to own and control the resources that is in our land, to be able to pay tax to federal government. So very simply, it's a question of equity and justice. It is not fair, proper, or right that we should have is a country of 36 states of 6 regions where 3 regions are producing nothing, 27 states are producing nothing, and they are feeding off of 9 states that are producing something. There has to be something very critically wrong with that. And anybody that says that we don't have a right to agitate for a reversal of that situation and condition is not fair. And that in itself is not enough to stop us. We must control the resources and pay tax to federal government. That issue must be discussed, and it must be discussed very quickly. We cannot wait another 100 years. We will not wait another 100 years. As a matter of fact, things are very critical in Nigeria today, but they are even more critical for us, that whose environment is devastated. The UN says there is a death sentence hanging over the Niger Delta because of the level of devastation, the pollution in the air, the land and the sea, the water we drink, the farm, the produce of whatever is able to grow in our soil is deadly in all ramifications, whether we're drinking it, whether we're breathing it, or whether we're eating it. It is bad for our health. And therefore, the lifespan of people in the Niger Delta is highly reduced, even when the percentage is placed against any other part of Nigeria. So, for me, the agitation to own control, and manage our resources needs no permission from anyone, or whether federal government or otherwise.